We are rolling.
Good morning. Welcome back to the conversation. This is pointing out the obvious. This is our news and politics webcast, our daily take on what's buzzing today. I'm your host, Patrick Russell, and over there's my very opinionated producer, Veronica. Together, we're here to quip and quiver through today's headlines, searching for the real, no matter how deep in the swamp we need to go. Happy Hump Wednesday to you, Veronica. So, part of an ongoing conversation that we've had several webcasts on, the American opioid epidemic and crisis. A landmark decision in Ohio yesterday ruled against the pharmacies, the three big ones, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart's, holding them liable and partially at least responsible in the two counties in Ohio where studies were done where they were really just pumping out pills.
Yeah.
These pharmacies were making a mint, filling out prescriptions, dealing with theft, dealing with frontline issues of addiction, like liars, right, and fake prescriptions being written, all that counterfeit activity. They were the first in the line to see that, could be argued. So a landmark decision, no financial settlement has been discussed. That's to come later. But what you see now is a precedent being set for all of the lower jurisdictions and all of the third-party lawsuits that may soon come, where, of course, they're going to look above and say, hey, federal government says you guys are to blame. You guys are to blame in these smaller cases as well, especially the civil, just pay me some money type of lawsuits. From a younger generation's perspective, Veronica, how do you see it? Is this judgment a just decision against the pharmacies? Or do you see them as simply just a third-party purveyor handling a function of filling prescriptions, which is exactly what they're meant to do? Your thoughts?
I believe everyone has a partial responsibility in this case, right? Now, do I believe that this pharmacies, Walmart, Walgreens, and what's the other one?
CVS. Mm-hmm. Well, Rite Aid also had. They weren't part of this particular settlement, but most of the major retail chains are in all states. Yeah. Similar cases like the one in Ohio are happening. Yeah. This just simply was the one that broke through the barrier.
Yeah, so I don't believe the pharmacies are potentially responsible for this.
Wow.
Keep in mind that who writes the prescriptions, who is in control, obviously, of writing and signing the little prescription note that we go to the pharmacy and get the pills.
Ultimately, the doctor.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if you give me a percentage, 90%, it's 10%. It's the pharmacy's responsibility also to say, hey, this is too many pills. What's going on now? Do we know for a fact that they were actually filling out reports to do so and they never listened to them? Because that's another thing. Going behind the case, we don't know that. We don't know if they really did. And then they're like, you know what, just move on. Let's give them pills, whatever. Right? So regardless of not knowing that information, I still believe that the pharmacies were doing their jobs. They got a prescription from a doctor saying, hey, this person needs these pills. They were just throwing them like candies.
So, absolutely. Assuming the best of circumstances, no foul play, no collusion between pharmacists to accept forfeit or counterfeit prescription paperwork, allowing for that, I would say you're right. You just convinced me. If the pharmacies were simply filling a prescription, which is exactly the function that they're designed to do, regardless of whether or not that boosts their revenue, regardless of whether or not they have frontline issues like theft and fraud, and robberies, you have the idea that they do have a function in the mechanics that's not really liable for what happens later, because it is truly the doctor that originates the prescription. And if it is the individual that keeps coming through to the doctor complaining of the same ailments, what is the pharmacy to do other than to prescribe? We go to the pharmacy for various prescriptions, and depending on the nature of the prescription, we have felt the extra scrutiny And we have felt the extra effort necessary to convince the pharmacist, hey, that this is a legit prescription for legit medical purposes given by a legit doctor. We've gone through that dance.
Now,
and imagine if now federal regulators, because of this lawsuit, now requires pharmacies to now be more judges, right, as a, and more police than they are simply to be just a facilitator of your prescriptions that you've already judged to be true with your doctor. I think you're absolutely right. You convinced me.
No.
I'm surprised the pharmacies lost this case.
Yeah, now, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of information, roughly 80 million prescriptions, painkillers were given to the, Trumbull County?
Yeah, there's two main Ohio counties that are in play here.
In 2012. Now, if I'm working in a pharmacy, I'm forced to know how many people live in the county, and then how many pills am I given, and then how many people it's coming through the door. So once again, this is why it doesn't make sense that pharmacies are being blamed for this, because I don't have any control. I mean, I can see 10 people coming through the door, and then who knows? I mean, they're getting the same thing. Maybe everyone is sick and they need it, right? So now what they're doing, based on what I see, it's they're blaming, because we got blamed, and then let's blame the pharmacies, let's blame the doctor. I mean, they're blaming everyone.
Final note, I think we're going to see an appeal, and I think we're going to see a much stronger defense from the pharmacies in what we're trying to insinuate here. Given no foul play, given no collusion of trying to scheme either the patients, the insurance companies, or doctors, or the government in any way, simply playing the middleman and filling out those prescriptions and sending them out like they're candy, regardless, I still believe you have convinced me. I believe that they're innocent and they should not be held liable for what has unfortunately unfolded into a true crisis in this country, but through no fault of CVS, Walgreens, or your local Walmart pharmacy. Guys, there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer, but there is your opinion. Please don't just subscribe to this channel, even though we will be doing this back and forth on the daily basis, but add your voice to the show to make it a whole lot more fun. Guys, remember, it doesn't matter if you lean to the right, it doesn't matter if you lean to the left. As long as you're treating the person in front of you kindly, you just made the world a better place. Happy Hump Wednesday, everybody.